Welcome to Wednesday Comics. Brought to you by rootsoftheswampthing.com and SuperCon 2018 Return to the Con.
Hey everyone, keep turning those pages.
Welcome to Wednesday Comics. To my right, we have the Fox himself, Alex. How you doing?
Hello, everybody.
And across from me, the squirrel himself, Garrett. How you doing?
Do foxes chase squirrels?
I
They
know
can if they can catch them.
they chase rabbits, and that's what I am. I am your host, Marvin. This is the Wednesday Comics podcast, reviewing the books for the week of, what would it be? What was it, 10/17?
Yes.
10/17/2018. This one's a little bit late. We had a little scheduling thing, but we're coming at you with some reviews for the week. 6 books out of the week here. And we're going to start first here with Gideon Falls. This is Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino. Gideon Falls number 7. 7 already. Can you believe it?
Real quick.
The sum of its parts arc. And first, before we get into what the actual book's about, did this issue, and I think it's mainly because of the art, the way there's a lot of big panels, did it feel a little short to you guys?
Yeah, I think what you just said is exactly 100% correct. It's like a lot more art was telling the story this issue as opposed to text, so it went by really quickly.
I mean, it
seemed
pages.
quick, but it actually seemed longer in pages.
I mean, the last page is page number 24, so it is 24 pages long. It's just that I think there's a lot of two big spreads, or on the page, each panel was like maybe 4 panels, and they were huge, so I think it just was quick to read. But I really did like this issue. It's an issue back, right? And it kind of told a little backstory about our friend here. What's his name, Alex?
Norton?
Norton.
I don't know which friend. The crazy guy is Norton.
A little bit about his backstory and a little bit about the father and the sheriff. Clara, is that her name? Yes, Clara.
I don't remember the sheriff's name, but she's the sheriff.
So there's a lot of backstory on them, but then at the end of the issue, here we go. Some guys bust down the door and they come after Norton himself. And that last page, first off, the paneling's great in that page. It's like up and down, but it's like turned over. There's a lot of that in this book. Garrett, what do you think of that? There's a lot of that in this book where you have to like turn the page and read it and stuff like that.
I think, Sorrentino, that's what he does best, and it's so fresh to see someone that can do that creatively, but not do it in a way that's like you have no fucking idea how to read it. Especially in that last page that Marvin's talking about, the sequence is like him falling down, at the same time as this like scientist is explaining, like, not scientist, this officer, this like psychiatrist is like talking just like the devil will, or whatever that demon is for this story. The last thing being, soon you will become my doorway. It's like, that's terrifying. And it does that creepy smile grin again that we've seen in the barn before.
So does that mean the scientist actually is the bad guy, or is the demon, or is that just the imagery that we get that this is a bad guy, but not necessarily the demon?
I think it's like a parallel. I don't think it's actually implied. I don't think it's actually not implied is the wrong word. I don't think it's explained that that's the same person. So it could either be like a metaphor, or it's it actually is that, but I don't think that would make a whole lot of sense. I think it's just his greatest fear is realized is like, hey, we're going to expose you. We're going to make sure that you don't have these tendencies anymore. But that's also going to send him down like a huge descent. Kind of like Kill or Be Killed when he goes to the insane asylum, It's like he starts to question his motives. And I think it's the same thing. It's going to be like Norton might end up like snapping out of it a little bit. Being like, hey, maybe I never saw a black barn. Like basically being mind controlled, brainwashed.
The thing I love about this issue is, and the thing I've been loving about the story, just in general, is that this issue is just character development, but yet the plot has moved forward within these moments of learning about these characters. And so the story never feels like that we're not getting enough about these characters. It always feels like we get enough about the characters, but also the plot doesn't, it never feels like it's going too slow, this book. Like every issue, I'm like, geez, a lot of stuff happened this issue. But then when you think about it, when you look back at the pages, like, really, it's like 2 scenes, right? And you're like, okay. But it does seem like a lot goes on, and the art, I think, helps with that a lot. It makes it feel very, like, there's a lot of momentum, a lot of stuff's happening. And by the time I get to the end of the issue, I'm ready to read the next one. Like, this series, it's great that I don't think it's been delayed yet, because, especially with Sorrentino doing the art, that we can keep up and keep going. And I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but I think this is one of my favorite books. It might be my favorite book right now. And I really love this issue.
I think this is one of Jeff's strongest books. They used to be Royal City, but this Gideon Falls has a that horror-esque feel, but it's not too overdrawn. And like you said, it's a lot of just character development, which I think is important. I think Jeff is really great at. So I'd agree. This is probably one of the strongest teams just on a book. I think Jeff writes an amazing script and an amazing book, and Sorrentino art is just top notch. Also, shout out to those covers. They still look like faces, and I love it.
Oh, this was a 9 for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a 9, 100%. Like this book, it's like true horror instead of like slasher horror, where it's like, just trying to show off. This actually, when you have a story that creates dread and misery and horror, that is a great horror book. And so it's so fun to be a part of, or to read a comic that's actually true horror and not fake horror.
Alex, what'd you give it?
I would give it a 9. This is a very, very strong issue for us getting back into the second arc.
The only thing I don't like is it felt short, but it was like, I don't know. I felt like I would have liked a little bit of a longer issue coming back, but still, otherwise it was good though.
Well, I thought like the whole part with the with the father, like they kept him in the issue just to make sure that they're still relevant, but most of this issue was about Norton and the doctor. So I feel like they didn't really have a huge part in this issue, but you can't always just be focused on them. There's obviously 2 sides to the story, and we need to spend equal amount of time with both sides.
Alex, what else we get?
Justice League Dark #4, written by James Tynion IV, art by Alvaro Martinez and Raul Fernandez, cover art Riley Rosmo. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I had no idea what the hell was going on in this issue. We are in part 3 of The Witching Hour, and this book literally took no notes from what is going on in this series. And so I kind of commend it for it's not calling out to the book that I was already reading. It's taking place in Wonder Woman, Jail, Dark. I think there's actually a Witching Hour part 1. I actually hated this issue, and I just kind of breezed through it.
See, Alex, for me, you brought up the best part of this book, and that was that Riley Rosmo cover. Everything beyond that cover was absolute shit.
Agreed.
I will give props to the interior art, but it was tied up with the most bizarre story of all time. And, we knew this was coming. We knew that this is a part 3 of a story that we didn't read part 1 and 2. But you got to do something at least to be like, hey, even if you're not getting the event, we still want you to keep getting this book. It's not like, hey, drop this because you don't get the first 2 parts. I mean, it's just a god-awful story. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And, like, there's, Persephone happens to be a freaky witch, I guess. Like, what? That's not the Persephone I know of.
I actually didn't mind this issue. I like it. We definitely did get put into the middle of the story. This is obviously the action beat of that storyline. It's the 3rd issue of what is going to be like 4 or 5 issues. So it's like the middle of the story, but I didn't have any issues following what was going along. But I also didn't really be like, oh yeah, it's a good issue. I was just like, it's fine. Whatever.
Well, it had a lot of cool things. Like it had Deadman in it. It had, Constantine, who's been in every single issue so far. It had, Wonder Woman's kind of getting some magic powers. It has someone from the Swamp Thing series, and it had the Parliament of Trees. So it had very cool things. I just think, what a waste for fans that have started this book just to read this book, and now we don't get to know the context of why they're in this book, and we can assume or go back and read parts 1 and 2.
Well,
but
that's what I felt like. I felt like it wasn't a bad issue if I was reading that series, but since I'm not, I don't know what's going on. But also, like I understood that like I'm not reading that series, so I don't know what's going on. So I just read it for what it was, and I was like, oh, it's fine. But like I don't know what's going on really on the grand scheme of things. Like I knew what was going on in this issue, but in the grand scheme of things, I was like, I don't know who this is. I don't know why they're fighting this person, and like what's all happening here. We have some kind of context from the last issue where Wonder Woman had these powers, all of a sudden she found out she had, and then now I kind of like pieced it together, but by the end of it, I was like, I hope the next issue is another tie-in. But I also wasn't like, oh, I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't think it was something that I knew was going on because I haven't read the Witching Hour. So,
right. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's way too much in its infancy to be tying it into an event.
Well, that's definitely
I get
true.
it.
Yeah,
I get it because it's October. Like, cool, but when you just sort of like let a book have at least an arc or two. I mean, I guess it did wrap up the first arc on issue 3, but to get thrown into a crossover that early, I'm like, you can't even establish the characters working together before they're barely in this book because Wonder Woman's being overpowered by Persephone.
Yeah, but that'd be like in earlier Rebirth when we got the Night of the Monster Men.
So that was issue 12. That was like the end of the second arc. It was between the second and third arc of Batman.
Oh, I didn't think it was that. I thought it was like maybe the third, fourth issue in. We were getting into this Monsters book, crossing over with other events or other books. So I mean, I understand it. If I was getting Witching Hour, I probably would enjoy this. I'd at least know what's going on. These characters would make sense why they're here. I guess I just wanted a little bit of a tie back into the JLD book that I had already started 3 issues ago. So I give this a 1. I did not enjoy this at all, being thrown into the middle of the water and expecting to know what's going on.
yeah, I give it a 5. I just take it or leave it, whatever. But
yeah, I'm going to give it a 5 too because I do think the interior art is good. I love that cover, and I mean, I knew this was coming, so I can't really blame the creative team for doing this. I mean, I don't think they had a choice, but I'm also only giving it a 5 because it's like this shouldn't be happening this early in a book. So,
yeah, I just feel like if somebody was getting that Witching Hour one, this probably for them was the best issue because it's like an action issue and a lot of stuff was happening. So when I was reading this, I was like, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to love this issue if they're reading that. But since I have no context for any of this, it's just like an action scene for me. So that's why it's a 5. But
yeah.
Get it? What else?
All right, well, moving on. We have Old Man Logan, number 49, written by Ed Brisson, with art by Ibrahim Roberson. So I'll just say this flat out. This book has way returned back to form. Like, that kind of feeling we were getting about it being daunting with, like, the bullseye arc and everything.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the finale arc before we get that 12-issue maxi series. But I think this is a pretty cool way to end this monthly series, him going up against Hulk again.
Well, it was a nice tie back to the first time that Brisson took over at issue 25. And to know that the overrunning arc is going to be he goes up against Maestro one more time. Hopefully either to win or maybe Maestro's the one who puts him in his place and he's dying from getting the crap kicked out of him because he's not healing as well. He's got that Regenerix with him.
Right.
And I think he's getting to that point he's going to have to take it. Much like in Logan, the movie, he had to take that last little bit of healing factor serum that he found just so he could stand a chance. And I think that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, I am kind of getting bittersweet because, we've been reading this book for what, 3-4 years now? I mean, maybe even longer, almost 5. Like, it is pretty bittersweet that it's ending. And we did read Return of the Wolverine number 1, and that was just not enjoyable. So it's like, yes, we might be getting sick of like Old Man Logan, but at least like he's an established character that doesn't change that much. And so when this book opened up with like a nightmare in the wastelands and everything, like you saw Old Man Hawkeye, you saw Wolverine's family, and then I think this is going to really tie back to like his like the Old Man Logan beginning written by Mark Miller, and whatever happens in issue 50, which looks like it's going to be a huge fight between Hulk and Wolverine, or Hulk and Old Man Logan, is going to be super, super fun, because the first time they fought, Logan got his ass kicked, curb stomped.
He only won because of Hawkeye and all the other kids and the other female Hulk who helped.
Right.
So now it's just Wolverine going up against him.
But you can see the Regenics in his pocket in the last panel. So I think you're 100% right. It's going to be just like the end of Logan, the movie. But we know that, issue 50, right after that, there's 12 more issues of this series. So we'll at least get another year of Old Man Logan. So I'm excited. I like the Sorrentino's been doing the covers. The inside art by Roberson, at least for this arc, looks incredible.
It does.
It's not shitty or anything like that. It looks really good for this book. And King Hulk, scary. Straight up brutal and scary. He makes these people so afraid he makes them kill each other as opposed to him actually killing them. That is terrifying.
And I don't want our listeners to think that Garrett and I don't like Old Man Logan or Old Man Wolverine, whatever you want to call him. I actually like the character. I just don't like that they've dulled him down, that they've actually, he's old, I get that. He's getting tired and his healing factor doesn't work. I am just used to the young man Logan who can take the beating, get back up, and still, even in this issue, I think he tells him, I'm waiting for my heart to heal. I was like, okay, I liked that. That there's things that still make me excited about this book. I think, we've been doing this for 50 issues now. I realized the first half of it was Jeff Lemire. Woohoo. Ed Brisson, I was a little nervous about, and this book has actually had its really good arcs, really good issues. It's also had some of those weaker points, and I think we're going to end issue 50 on a very strong note, leading into that 12-issue mini, or maxi, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. I think the next issue is going to be really incredible because everything from this arc is going to pay off. But I think up to this point, there's enough anticipation and good storytelling that I'm excited for 50.
Black Badge number 2.
I would give it an 8. Sorry. I would agree, Garrett. I was thinking I'd give this issue an 8. This was pretty solid.
I wasn't listening to your guys' conversation, so I heard Garrett say that, and there was a pause, and I was like, "Oh, they must be done." Black Badge number 3.
That doesn't surprise me.
Matt Kent, Tyler Jenkins, Hillary Jenkins on this book. Issue 3 of the Boy Scouts, who aren't Boy Scouts, they're more spies. First, before we get into the story once again in this book here, this book is beautiful. The style's not traditional, obviously. The lines aren't well defined, and it's kind of like a watercolor-ish. It's not exactly Matt Kent art, but it is mimicking. It's very close to that. But I just stare at this book. The coloring's fantastic. The story is blowing me away each issue. I think I know what this book's about, and then we get an issue, and it's it ramps up the action, especially this issue, I believe. Really set a bad guy, and we got more history on what happened to Jimmy, and it was a great issue, I thought. But the art, I believe, for me at least, is the star of this book. I even that 2-page spread of Camp Wayward. I just looked at that forever. What do you guys think?
This has been my favorite issue, I think, of the 3. I think for me, we've been introduced to this team, and I think they did it really greatly to show what this Black Badge team can do. But to see their training facility, me and Marvin were talking about it. There was this cool that map where they show the entire grounds of the training facility. So cool. I would love to see in every movie when you got a new team working together, there's always that training montage. Would be super cool to see them training. They just started that in this issue, but getting back into the swing of being retrained and whatnot. So that's very exciting. The cover itself, it goes over their camping gear. That's so freaking cool. It's just a great idea, and I love the concept so much.
I loved the cover. It reminded me of, the Department H Matt Kent breaking things down for us. I really enjoyed it. This issue was good, had good things for me. Like you said, the Camp Wayward, we're seeing this whole layout that's amazing. Them actually doing the work to get back into shape and be retrained. This one wasn't necessarily my favorite issue, though, of this book. I will continue to get it. I really did enjoy it, but this wasn't the strongest one for me. And there's things that at the end of the issue I should be blown away by, but then I'm not. And I don't know if I was just trying to get through the books for the week and I just wasn't into it. My heart wasn't into this issue.
Yeah, what was it about that you didn't enjoy compared to the other ones, I mean?
What?
What was it about this issue that you didn't like compared to the other ones, or you didn't enjoy as much? Because you're saying this one's not your favorite one, and I think me and Garrett both said that it was. I just was curious. I'm just curious. Like, what about the other two issues do you think was missing from this one?
Maybe a part of it is this, that we're focusing so much more on this team, and we're focused on this Jimmy thing. Where for me, I don't care about the Jimmy problem. He was dead. That's all I cared about, and I realized the new kid is concerned with what had happened to Jimmy, and the team is taking a little more personal that, we lost our comrade. But as this reader, at least, I don't care right now. I want this team to be established, and then you can start going, we're getting chatter over the waves saying Jimmy's alive.
Yeah, but it's a cool reveal that, like, obviously he's either undercover, which is what it seems like, or he defected, which, that's kind of a cool storyline as well. Like, I could see very many possibilities that they could go with that reveal at the end.
Yeah, what I really like about the series is that it almost feels like James Bond meets Goonies in a way, that these kids are going on an adventure, but also they're like well-trained spies, so that you don't have that kind of issue that they don't know what they're doing. They all know what they're doing. They're really good at it. And so the Jimmy part, for me at least, is just like a classic spy trope. And so, like, I just enjoy the way that it's being played with here, that we're kind of like, oh, these are kids, and it's played like in this way. For instance, spoilers, anybody who's seen GoldenEye, like, same thing happens there, right? He thinks his partner died, and he actually turns out to be the bad guy. It's like a classic thing that, the bad, like, their partner dies and it turns out that's the actual bad guy they've been fighting against the whole time. But I feel like the twist and having them be these Boy Scouts and, like, the fun adventures they're going on, plus the art, makes this refreshing to me. And so, like, that's what I enjoy about it. But also, I really do like spy stuff like that. So maybe that's why I enjoy
I'm not a big spy fan. You said two things in that first sentence: Goonies and James Bond. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound interesting at all.
And I think that's what I love when they went back to their base and, like, that cover and everything like that. And when they were training, because that's like classic, like, spy stuff. And, they go back to the base and he's getting his gadgets together and he's like, you're seeing all the cool stuff that he does. And then he goes on a mission. So, like, I think that's what I enjoy about this issue, is that it felt like we're getting more an idea of how big the world is and, like, what kind of organization they're with. And so I was like, oh, this seems cool. Like, it seems like this can be more than just this one Jimmy story. Like, this could be a whole world. And so, I think that's what I enjoy about it so much.
I bet you're really excited if they ever introduce a quartermaster.
Maybe. I mean,
that'd
sure.
Be cool. I bet they would. There's so much tech. Like, I bet they will.
Something. I mean, I don't know. I just really enjoyed this issue, but I do see, Alex, you're saying the first two were kind of more one-shot stories and, like, an adventure, and then this one's really getting into the story now. But I feel like that the story that we are going to be going on is this Jimmy story, and the first two issues were more just to establish the team, and then now here we are with what the book's going to be about. So we'll see. I really enjoyed it. This was a 10 for me, this issue.
I would give it a 9. I think like everything that I was talking about, like, is really cool. Like, you see the facility and all that, but I think the character development, I think we just need more of, because, like, to really feel why there's this empty hole with Jimmy that they talk about constantly, I think I need to know more about the characters themselves and why, being part of this mercenary Black Badge group, they would care about, like, how close they got together with Jimmy on their team. So
I think I might give it a 7. I think originally when I sent you guys a message, it was a little higher, but my thinking about it now, this is a 7 for me.
A little higher.
Has good things, but it's not what I'm expecting. Not what I was hoping for. It's
Alex,
not
where's
living
that
to
from?
the expectations that I have.
Where's that from, Alex? A little higher.
What?
I'm just kidding. Go on. Al Garrett knows where that's from.
Empire Strikes Back, baby.
No, Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
He's not.
Yeah, it's when he's blind.
Star Wars.
When Han Solo's blind, he's trying to shoot the Sarlacc. He's like, no, a little higher.
Oh, you're right.
Alex, what else do we get since you don't enjoy Star Wars? Go on.
Batman, number 57. Tom King, art by Mark Buckingham, Andrew Petboy, and the cover artist, Tony S. Daniel. This was a strong issue for me. So we get Bruce is on his way to go find the KG Beast, not KJ like Marvin likes to call him. KG Beast gets to the house, gets shot at through the door. Then we get to watch them just duke it out, beating the living piss out of each other.
I have to kind of disagree. I thought, I was excited for this issue because, yes, I knew there was going to be action, but I was kind of hoping for something more than what we got. It was a lot of, grunting and punching, which is fine. But that was, that's what they were doing the whole time. It's like, gosh, crunch, hunch. What? I just, an entire issue about fighting, there was, barely a script, too. Except for the ending. The ending was very strong where he's talking over KG Beast in the snow and whatnot, leaving him there. It kind of shows how brutal Batman has become after dealing with a really tough tragedy that he had to go through. But I don't know. I thought the issue before where it's KG Beast and his father was way stronger. And, to get this right after it, I mean, the first thing I was thinking of is Batman walking right up to the door and he gets shot through it. It's well, no shit. Why would you go up to the front door and be like, hey, KG Beast, let's talk? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but what's he going to do to break into the house?
A Batman thing. Some other cool Batman entrance than knocking on the front door.
Yeah, but how do you go into KG Beast's house? My question is that KG Beast is one of the best assassins out there. Much like Bruce is the world's greatest detective, why would Bruce think that KG Beast hasn't done things to the window or is planned in some other way? The easiest way in is to go through the door. He's already assuming you're going to show up. And then Bruce already deduced, I'm going to get shot at through the door, so what the hell?
I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I agree. The Batman way of life is... I don't know why Bruce just didn't bring the plane and just drop it on him and kill him right then and there.
Because Batman's not a killer.
Well, he didn't save him, so it's the same thing. Here's a question I was going to ask, and I find out that Garrett actually has this viewpoint, because I saw a lot of people online complaining that this was just an action issue. And I know we had that conversation, I think, a couple weeks ago on the show, that people complain when there's an action scene that it takes up pages that they paid for. And I was sitting here reading this issue. I did enjoy this issue, by the way, just to put that out there. But I don't think the issue is wasted by an action scene. I mean, these two characters, what are they going to do? They're going to fight, obviously. And I understand.
Right.
I think the crux of what else is in this issue is that folk tale that he tells, where all the animals fall into the pits and they slowly eat each other until there's one left. And then they're like, what was the last one left? The pig? No, the fox.
The fox.
The fox was the slyest one. It's the fox, did he ever get out of the hole? We never know. And the point of the story is, and at first we see KJ Beast is being told that story. And then at the end, we see Bruce got told the same story. So, they both had the same upbringing. They both had the same kind of mentality, right? They hear that story, and the moral of that story is maybe they could have got out if they helped each other, but they decided that short-term solutions were better than long-term solutions, and eating each other to survive one day was better than trying to get out and survive for the rest of your life. And so I think that is more the meat of this story, is that they're fighting each other, a short-term solution. He just beats them up, and he's like, hey, I can tell you, who told me to kill your boy? And he's like, no, I'll figure it out on my own. And so Batman right now is not really concerned about what he usually it's being a detective and figuring out long-term things. Right now, he's just I need to beat somebody up. And he beats up KG Beast. And he leaves him there on the floor, and it's a quick thing, and it's kind of like the story that we saw. Like, he beat him up and left him there, and then it's like, well, what does Batman get out of it? Does he hurt himself in this situation? Because now he's going to be going back to the city, and did you really get any information out of that? No, he just beat up KG Beast, and that's it. Like, he could have went there and got the same information. Because he goes, I'll think about it. I'll figure it out on the way there. And it's like, okay, so what did you go there for? The only reason you went there is to fight him. And is that really going to help you long term? No, it didn't. So I think this issue is showing what Garrett was saying, like, that he's so reckless right now that he's just going out there and like fighting people.
Yeah, but I can tell you from not personal experience, but I can tell you that if this ever happened and someone hurt my daughter, I'm not going there to get information. I'm there to punish you. And Bruce does that by shooting him in the face with the grappling gun and, spoilers, breaks KGB's neck. So leaves him in the snow. And then KGB tells him, well, I can tell you who I'm working for. Bruce says, I don't need you to tell me I'm the world's greatest detective. So he's not concerned with getting the information. He's already going to figure it out. And who's to say that Bruce doesn't already know? As the reader, we're just told, I'll figure it out later. But if we're living in the world of Batman, Bruce may already have the answers. He just needed to get his knuckles bloodied.
Yeah, but is that
who's the baddest
But
ass.
is that Bruce? Bruce has never been like that before.
What?
Just go after somebody to beat him up? He goes to get information.
Yeah. And what was the whole point?
Story. When did Bruce ever break his spine back into place?
Truth. But, like, let's think about that arc that we all loved with, what's his face doing the art? Was it not Paquette, but
Lee Weeks.
Lee Weeks. Like, that whole thing was about Bruce, like, feeling super guilty for what he did to Mr. Freeze and being like, hey, you can't hold me above some standard that you can't hold yourselves to. And then, like, yes, I get it. Like, his ward, his, like, best friend, his brother got hurt very, very badly. And yes, Batman's angry, but it's like, how many lessons do you have to go through before you figure out, like, being Batman comes with this responsibility that, you know, he has that rule that he can't kill, but there's also a moral line he can't cross. And, you know, that's always been Batman's Achilles heel. You know, if you're at the Tower of Babel or anything like that, like, he has all these contingencies, all these backup plans, and he doesn't care if somebody gets hurt. But it's like, in a Tom King world or a Tom King book where we're focusing so much on those feelings, it's just very off-putting that we broke down this character. Bad things have happened to him while he's been broken down, and now it's kind of going back to that godlike Batman that, you know, we usually love and enjoy, but now it's kind of like, okay, is he so fractured that now he's forced into this God Batman's, you know, mood?
Yeah, but it comes back to that fight or flight. Once they started fighting, Bruce either could have left and escaped with his life. He's already too far in, so at this point it's either you incapacitate. No, he didn't kill KG Beast, but he also didn't save him, like Marvin said. Or he lets KG Beast kill him, and he never does get answers. The rest of his family now has to mourn his death. So it's, what's the right option? You live or you die. And so Bruce chose to live. He may have taken a sneakier way, a little more unmoral win, but he lives for another day. Much like the story that we were told, or the folklore that we were told before, Bruce was the fox. Instead, Bruce actually escapes the hole, and he never actually had to kill the pig or anybody else to live.
By the way, was it gross when the pig ate himself? Or
Yeah,
it was. I gotta give the fox some credit. That was pretty good. Oh, I'm eating my own guts. Then all of a sudden you watch the pig bend down, bites his guts, and just everywhere.
These come out.
And then I felt so bad for that rabbit and the squirrel.
Oh, yeah. Well, the fox died. I mean, the wolf died first, right? The wolf. They were like, hey.
No. They teamed up and killed the rabbit and the squirrel because they couldn't sing the loudest. And then they ate the wolf third because he was too loud. And then the fox tricked the pig into killing himself so he could eat him.
Oh, yeah.
I think the worst thing is you watch that pig just go berserk when he goes to eat the squirrel and the rabbit.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't waste any time going red and bloodthirsty.
I think if I had to rate this book, I'm going to give it a 6. Like, I've just been on eggshells with this comic ever since the wedding. And yes, I know, I mean, I'm not saying that there's been bad issues or that this was a bad issue by any means. I just don't get and I'm sure it's going to pay off later, what Tom King is trying to do with Bruce right now, because it's a lot of roller coastering right now, and I really am excited to figure out when we get to that issue that all this pays off. But I'm just wondering what the direction is.
This is a super solid 9 for me.
This was an
I
8.
actually really enjoyed the deck.
The issue.
This issue. I don't know what I was going to say. Deck.
This was an 8 for me. I like the art a lot, and the folklore tale was good in the action scene. But nothing. I mean, it wasn't like one of the best issues, especially after we came out for that Lee Weeks arc. But it was good. It was still good, so I enjoyed it. But for what it was. Garrett, what's the last book we got?
All right, we got Venom Annual #1, written by Donny Cates, with art by, not just Donny Cates, written by Donny Cates, David Michelinie, Jeff Loveness, and James Stokey, with art by Kevin Walker, Ron Lim, Ty Walker, and James Stokey. This annual had some good parts and had some meh parts, like nothing bad. But I think, when they start, Donny Cates' story, let's start with, kind of had the whole Black Cat story involved, which is interesting because, Black Cat has turned over this not new leaf, that's kind of a weird way to say it, but she's gone back to her more criminal ways of stealing and, leading a criminal empire kind of thing. And for some reason, she straight up tries to attack Venom. And I don't think she understands what she's trying to accomplish by fighting him when he's trying to save people, actually. So it is interesting to see through her eyes, holy crap, Venom, this guy that usually murders people in cold blood, is actually trying to save the day. And Venom even says that to her, hey, you really fucked this up, so I'm going to fuck you up because I was really trying to save people and you just screwed that up for me. And now Venom pissed. We pissed.
So the 3 stories, this Black Cat one was the weakest for me.
Yeah.
Art and story. And did Donny Cates have the writing for this one? I thought he just had the nowhere bar scenes.
Yeah, that Black Hat one wasn't Donny Cates. It's just the scenes around the stories was Donny.
Oh, okay. Well, then, so that was the round 2 story written by David Michelinie. Yep. Okay,
Because when I read this one, I thought this doesn't read like Donny Cates. These words don't seem like Donny Cates' choice. But I agree, this Black Cat one was uber weak, and I just wanted to get done with it because I could have given 2 craps. I know she's pissed about the Venom verse,
right? But then we get to probably the best story, which is the Nobody Does It Better by Jeff Loveness, and it's a Venom Wolverine story where they actually duke it out, and I loved it. You got your classic Wolverine fighting the no holds bar Venom, and Wolverine's just toying with him the whole time. I see this one where he's like, well, I'm sure Spider-Man's real scared, and then Venom's just pissed off, and you can see even when Logan brings his claws out, you see this big grin on his face as he's about to stab Venom. I think this was the most fun storyline, and it's them having a brawl, but also at the same time it's Wolverine putting Venom in his place. Hey man, I kill animals, and you got to ask yourself, are you going to be this? Are you going to be this carnal beast, or are you going to be something more?
The art in that one was my favorite too. In that second story.
Oh, it's so good. Who's that artist? It is Ty Walker. Yeah, I'd like to see that artist in some more stuff because, seriously, it was really good.
That was a nice little self-contained little romp they had fighting, duking it out, and actually gave Wolverine less of that berserker animal rage, and it was kind of I have to be an adult. We can fight all we ever want, but you got to realize, are you going to be more than what you are, like you said, or am I have to come put you down?
And then finally, we get the James Stokey storyline. This with the Juggernaut, fighting Venom as well. The art was pretty good. I don't think it's the best I've ever seen James Stokey art. The story, ironically, because, for being an artist, I thought was a little bit better than the art, actually. I mean, it's hard to say because they worked hand in hand, but
Yeah, I thought that it was pretty funny. I mean, it's a story basically of saying how the Juggernaut beat up Venom one time, but it was the opposite. And so the art really worked with that. This art really looks like James Stokoe, like he did on Godzilla 100 Year War, more than with other stuff I've seen him on. So it's kind of more anime-ish, I believe.
Right.
Especially the coloring. So it was kind of in that vein, and it was a fun story. The second one, I think it was still the best, but James Stokoe's the way that's his expressions are, like Juggernaut's face, I think really sells the story, and so I had fun with that one.
I actually think my favorite story is the Donny Cates one. So when everyone's telling stories about Venom and how badass he used to be, and it's Scorpion, right, who's mouthing off saying Venom is a sissy. He's nothing like he used to be. So then we're talking to this black cloaked character, and after Gargan mouths off for the last time, Venom then disperses from this black suit that he was wearing and goes, the fun thing about Venom is he can be anywhere. And you see that, I assume he bites off Scorpion's head. Well, and everyone's running out of the bar. I like that one. That was my favorite story.
What did you guys think about the annual, just like in terms of it coming out? Like, this is an annual that came out in the middle of after issue 7, right? And Donny Cates is on it. So I assume we're going to have something about the story, but it just was like a one-off. Like, you could read this, not reading that Venom story, and still be okay. But also, did it feel like, for me, it felt like I didn't need to get this. It was fun and fine, but I didn't need to get this.
It wasn't, which is very interesting because two other comic books that spin off the main Venom by Donny Cates, the Web of Venom and then the First Host. Yeah, so it's like, that's so weird that they got this annual pushed when it has nothing to do with the actual current story.
Well, that's what I thought. There's like so much they could be telling stories about right now in this new world that he's building, and yet we get which like I'm saying, it's fine if you love the character and you want to read this. There's nothing wrong with this issue at all. I don't feel like, but also for me, somebody who's reading it because it's Donny Cates doing this story and this world's so big. Like when I picked this up and I was like, oh, it literally is. I mean, not that Marvel advertising in a false way. Like, it really is just 3 stories about Venom. For me, I was expecting something because Donny Cates' name was on it. I was going to be like, oh, this is related. So that's why I was really excited to read it. And I came away being like, oh, that second story's art was great. And the third one was fun. But then after that, I was just like, oh, okay, well.
Well, basically, they had him. Sorry, I said basically they let him narrate it because they wanted people to buy the book. If he wasn't on it, I bet less people would have got it.
But the purpose I think this book served is that, so in issue 7 we find out that the maker has Eddie Brock and that he can't get Venom to come out, and the little bit of Venom that's left inside of him is just a aura of protection almost. So I'm wondering if this Venom we'd seen, because we don't know who's wearing this suit, this Venom. Who's to say that this isn't just the symbiote taking the form of a person? And while Eddie Brock's incapacitated, this Venom is just doing its own thing. And he was fine listening to these stories until Mac keeps dragging on Venom that, oh yeah, you're a piece of garbage and he's a sissy. Okay, well, I got to show that I'm not a sissy. I'm going to kill Gargan, or I'm going to do whatever I did to him to show fear. Because I think that Venom suit would still want respect. Yes, it's being a team player, but it also has its own motives. So I'm wondering if this suit was just the suit. And so it's just showing you that little bit that we may have missed from issue 7, because we never did see Venom.
True.
I guess we'll see. I mean, I thought it was fine. It was like a 7 for me. But especially that second art, I really liked a lot. I'm going to see what else. That's the name I'm going to look out for now on, because I really did enjoy that. His Wolverine looked fantastic. But otherwise, when I got to the end, I was like, okay, that's fine. But I don't enjoy this character outside of Donny Cates rating him. So for me, I just really was okay with it. It was just okay.
Well, and after issue 7, even Donny Cates, I don't know how much more I can stand of this kind of Venom. I want Venom to come back. I don't want it just be an Eddie Brock book.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen.
What do you give it?
I'm going to give it a 7. I think the same thing. It was really fun stories, and that second one with Wolverine was really fun. But it's I always think annuals are the best when the creative team that's currently doing the books, like, oh, this is my chance to add extra story and content into my current story and get more people excited for it. Not just like, here's Venom's greatest hits. Like, oh, cool. So
this is what that Thanos legacy was for me. It had things that were kind of interesting, but overall, the buy into it was that it was a Donny Cates book, and he only does a little part of it. So not that I got tricked. I knew I was getting a Venom book, but I did expect a little bit more story from him.
Oh, did you give it, Alex?
I'm going to give it a 7. It had nice things, but it wasn't anything spectacular.
And Garrett, what did you say?
I said 7.
7's across the board. That's Venom Venom Annual number 1, Gideon Falls number 7, Batman number 57, Black Badge number 3, Old Man Logan, which one?
49.
Old Man Logan number 49, Justice League Dark number 4. Get those comic books wherever you get your comic books. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to tell you where to get them. This is the Wednesday Comics Podcast. This is a very condensed episode of the show. Like I explained at the beginning, some scheduling mishaps. So we're here just doing reviews, and you'll get a special episode coming out here soon. Check your feeds from SuperCon. It's a little overdue, but the content is still great. We have an interview with Mikey Martinez and Dylan Jacobson, where we talk about their creative process and what's coming out for them in the future. I really did enjoy editing that together, and it's good content. And actually, I kind of forgot what we talked about, so it was good to get a refresher. Wednesday Comics 605 at gmail.com. Send us an email. Let us know what you're thinking about, what kind of books you're picking up. At Wednesday Comics on Twitter, at Alex Pastrello, at Garot2188, at Marvin_Salguero, Facebook.com/Wednesday Comics Podcast. YouTube, look for Wednesday Comics. We have we didn't do Gauntlet this week, but usually you can watch the Gauntlet on there, and you can watch, sometimes Gary catches up on books and he has a video. So there you go. 605-215-1849. That's where you can leave a voicemail. Let us know what you're thinking about. Let us know also when you have thoughts about a book club, right, Garrett?
Wednesday Comics, League of Extraordinary Gentle People, proudly presents
Saga the Swamp Thing, Volume 2.
Dude, it sounds so good every time.
Alan Moore's second book on the Swamp Thing. And speaking of which, rootsoftheswampthing.com. Go there for your definitive source for all things Swamp Thing. John Boylan will be joining us for that book club. I believe he said he wanted to come on, which I'm sure he will be. So we'll talk some more about that. If you enjoyed the last one where we kind of dissected that book, The Anatomy of the Swamp Thing, get it? We went over that, and it was a great show, I thought. So, and fans were like, they asked Alex, hey, let's do the second one. So Alex is like, all right, let's do it. And so we'll talk about the Swamp Thing and get familiar more of the Avatar of the Green there for you. Subscribe to the show on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, anywhere you get your podcasts. I'm sure we're there. Like I said, I find us there almost one-on-one. I'm like, hey, we're on this podcast thing? Okay, that's cool. So make sure you also, if you enjoy the show, to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. It really does help a lot. And make sure you tell your friends that Wednesday Comics Podcast is available for free anywhere you get your podcast. I feel like this week of books, guys, let me know what you think. I felt like it was some really great stuff and some stuff that was average, but it wasn't a bad week. We've definitely had worse weeks, but it definitely didn't feel like nothing. That Black Badge and the Gideon Falls for me were like stuff that really got me excited for comics, and then the rest of the stuff was like, oh, this is fine.
Well, I think what really brought it down was JLD. Like that one, I think brought it down a little bit.
Black Hammer actually was, I thought, really good.
Oh, you guys.
I don't know if you guys have read it yet.
Hey.
I got that issue, and I really did enjoy it. It actually picked me back up to being excited to be in that universe, because issue 5 kind of left me down the dumps going, what am I getting in this book? And this book actually has continued on. It's actually quite good.
Guys.
So issue 6, get it.
I'm not sure if we talked about this on the forecast or if I just said it after the show to you guys. I said, you guys do Old Man Logan, and I would read Daredevil 309. And I did read Daredevil 609. I did read Daredevil 609, the first issue of the death of Daredevil. And guess what? It was fantastic. It was great. It really is a lot of setup for this arc, but it it's weird to see where we are now compared to when last time I read this book. And it actually feels like this is a better jumping on point because we got through all the stuff that I wasn't enjoying. And now we're to a part where I'm like, hey, this is pretty good. Phil Noto doing the art. Art was fantastic. And it didn't feel like a Marvel book, which was great because I think that's what Daredevil should be. It always feels like it's a little bit more mature. And that issue felt like old Daredevil. And so I'm going to keep reading the rest of that arc. I thought it was great. Fantastic. I was excited to get back into Daredevil because he's one of my favorite characters, and I believe I've been getting his book forever, and that was the first time I've ever dropped it for a long period of time. I only dropped it for 9 issues? 601 was the last one I read. So 8 issues. So I'm not going to go back and get those 8. I'm not Alex Pastrana over here, but I am going to continue forward.
Give me a little credit. I don't go back to get every issue now of stuff.
If you would have stopped at 601.
I may skip an issue, like Detective. If I jump back on Detective, which I won't, I'm not going to go back and get that other stuff. I don't care.
If you were in my situation, what would you do?
I am getting very excited for that Marvel Knights by Donny Cates and with Daredevil on the cover. So
Daredevil's going to be in
for that.
Yeah, he's on the cover with his mask on.
Oh, wow. Well, we got that, and then we got Daredevil Season 3 just came out, so if you got Netflix, go check that out. I heard it's great, and I'm excited to see... I'm excited that Daredevil's getting some good stuff coming out now, because for a while there was a little time where I was kind of over it, and but I'm back into it, baby.
Hey, I got an update. #GuestHost1 just finished Daredevil Season 3, and he said it was amazing, and it's like all those other Marvel Netflix series can't even touch it.
There you go.
Then Luke Cage just get canceled?
They're all getting canceled because they're going to the streaming service.
Disney's stealing them back, but that's fine. Daredevil, I'm sure Daredevil's probably too mature, and it might stay on Netflix. We'll see. People like that show, and I did hear the same thing, but #GuestHost1 says it's fantastic, and that's the word I take. I don't really believe anybody but that guy. I don't go to RottenTomatoes.com. I go to #GuestHost1.com, and he tells me what's up, and I believe him every single time. Because you know why? Because my name is Marvin.
I'm Alex.
I'm Garrett.
Hey, everybody. Keep turning those pages.